Serenbe is a place where people live, work, learn, and play in celebration of life's beauty. And we're here to share the stories that connect residents and guests to each other and to nature. This is Serenbe Stories. Danny Seo is known for his national magazine and Emmy Award-winning TV show, both named naturally Danny Seo. Danny believes life should be naturally delicious, naturally beautiful, and naturally easy, all presented with style and sustainability. Today, we talk with him about his start as an Earth Day activist at 12 years old, how he became known as a sustainable Martha Stewart, when a postcard got him onto the Oprah show, and using donated paper as a negotiating tool. We hope you enjoy this final episode of Season 3 of Serenbe Stories. But first, Serenbe Stories is brought to you by The Inn at Serenbe. The Inn is nestled in the rolling countryside of bucolic Serenbe, where guests can walk on the 15 miles of trails through preserved forest land, the wildflower meadow, and the animal village. You can relax by the pool, hot tub, or in rocking chairs on the wraparound porch. Play on the croquet lawn, swings, and in-ground trampolines. Connect with nature and each other, all while staying in luxurious rooms on the Inn grounds or within the community of Serenbe. Book your stay today at serenbeinn.com. So I want to welcome everybody back to Serenbe Stories today. Today we have Danny Seo of Naturally magazine and the famous TV show that he won many Emmys for. Welcome, Danny.
One Emmy.
Oh, one Emmy, but we wish you'd been nominated for a bunch of them, I believe.
One win, 2 losses, but I'll take that statue to the grave with me.
I love it.
But I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah, this will be fun.
Always fun to see you on the streets of Serenbe.
Yeah, I'm very recognizable. I don't know what it is, but...
Danny, tell us... We've known you for so long now, but how long have we known you? Ages. And also prior to you being good friends with Steve and I, you came to Serenbe and did a photo shoot.
I think I was here, more than 10 years ago. I think even further along where I didn't know you, Steve. I didn't know what the community was about, but... the Simmons Mattress Company based here in Atlanta, they rented out.
I remember that.
Do you remember this?
I do.
Because it was like, there was just like the Daisy, a couple buildings.
But you did most of the shoot over at the end, didn't you?
At the end, and I filmed a commercial and we rented it out.
Did you empty out the lake house or something?
We did. You totally remember this. And I was launching a mattress collection with them, and they found this amazing location, and I stayed here and was like, what is this place? And then I forgot about it. And then years later, we reconnected when I was launching the magazine. Yep. And then I remembered, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been here. Mm-hmm. It's like, and I saw the evolution, which was so extraordinary.
And I think we were in your second issue, possibly.
You were in 2014.
2014. Okay.
2014. And it was something that just made sort of part, it was actually, Serenbe was sort of part of the magazine's DNA. So this magazine I created more than 5 years ago. I just had this idea that, sustainability and the environment, it wasn't this niche thing anymore. It was so mainstream, and it wasn't a question of like, if you wanted to live with wellness, if you wanted to live green, it was more like, how are you doing it? Because we're all trying to strive to do it. And I said, it's how you naturally do it. You just sort of have this intuitive sense where it's like, you naturally do it. And so originally the magazine was just called Naturally, and the departments were like naturally beautiful, naturally delicious, naturally easy. And at the very last second, because you have to trademark, this is the boring stuff, but you have to trademark the name. And we were about to publish it. And the lawyers came back and said, there's already a magazine called Naturally. I go, what are you talking about? I've never seen it. And they go, it's in Australia. And when I finally got a copy, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a nudist enthusiast magazine.
That's wonderful.
I was like, oh my gosh, it's so not what we're about. And I said, what are we going to do? It's like, we're about to launch it. I go, well, usually the fastest thing to do is to add your name to it because you own your name. And so we called it Naturally Danny Seo. It wasn't because I was a narcissist and full of myself. And it's funny, that's the second time it's happened to me, guys, with a magazine title.
Really?
I worked at Rodale. I know you guys have worked with the Rodales, and that was where I started my career. And we were launching a new lifestyle magazine about sustainability and the environment in 2000. And it was called Organic Style. That's what the name of the magazine was when we launched it. The original title, the whole time I was working on it, was
No.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then Oprah beat them to the punch.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Can you imagine working on that? And of all the people to come out with a magazine, it's Oprah. You're like, well, we have to give that up.
Yeah, we're not going to win that battle.
Fighting Oprah. Just keep
Not
that
at
one.
all.
So that's how it was a quick pivot to organic style.
I love it. And did that end up becoming Organic Life magazine? Or
No, organic style was sort of in the heyday of publishing. And so I'm in my 20s, like early 20s. And here I am, this editor at this magazine and like jet setting around the world and doing photo shoots in Australia. And, I was like spending like a week at Daryl Hannah's ranch out in Telluride. Like it was crazy, the amount of time you would have, to do these amazing photo shoots. But then it folded after about 4 or 5 years at the magazine. It was only after we launched my magazine that Rodale came out with the idea to rebrand organic gardening into Organic Life.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the truth that we had something to do with that,
right.
but I think we were proving the category was alive and it could be beautiful and it could be more than just something. And coincidental?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Well, and then that one didn't stick around either.
No, insert evil laugh.
I know. Danny, how did you get Don't tell Rodale. But how did you get into it? Publishing.
Publishing. Totally accidental. So I'm a high school dropout.
You are? I didn't know that.
I'm a high school dropout. I failed English.
What? And now you're the editor of a magazine?
Totally. Yeah, I know. Well, welcome to America. Sometimes you don't even have to read to be president. It all goes back to like my 12th birthday.
Okay.
So my birthday's on Earth Day, which is, guys, what day is it?
April 21st.
No.
April 19th? April 27th?
I'm helping Steve. I was like, one more day. April 22nd.
22nd.
Oh,
21st.
I'm so close.
22nd. Okay.
April 22nd.
But you would be awesome on The Price is Right, Monica.
April 22.
Like you were on it.
Okay,
like
good. Yeah.
that
Maybe
washer dryer is yours.
Be an auctioneer.
So I was born on Earth Day. And I grew up in a Korean American household in a predominantly like white community. So like, and I say that because being the youngest, my brother and sister, we all went to the same school. And so as the CEO children, it's like you have my older brother who went from K to 12 and was valedictorian, perfect SAT score, went to an Ivy League school. So like we sort of set that bar at that school. Then my sister came along, she also went to an Ivy League school, Miss Pennsylvania, concert chair or state orchestra, played the violin, was in the lead in the school play, all this stuff. Then I come along at the age of 12. I discover that the world is coming to an end in 1989.
Yep.
And I'm reading the newspaper, and you're very naive and idealistic at 12. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So like, I believe everything, but I also believe I can just fix it. And I was convinced the world was coming to an end. And I was just like, I have to do something about it. And I didn't realize at the time I made this very deliberate decision at that age where I wasn't going to be another CO child, where I was going to be just focused on my academics. I got fixated and obsessed about activism. And so I created an activist organization that was just a couple of friends. I started funding it and growing it. And then I had to do like the articles of incorporation. I had to register as a charity. I started getting 1,000 members, 2,000 members, 5,000 members, 20,000 members, became a national organization. I started having lawyers, working pro bono for us. I was, working on legislation. I was lobbying Congress. I had a force that I created all organically. So even though I was never in school, and which is why I dropped out of school because I was failing everything, at the same time, I didn't realize that I was giving myself my own education in business and in marketing and community organizing. And I'm self-teaching myself like critical thinking and problem solving where they don't teach that in school because my parents weren't helping. And I realized, when I raised too much money, I met a threshold very early as a charity. If you make $25,000 as a charity and donations, you have to register as a 501c3 charity.
Okay.
Now, you're going to ask a 13-year-old now, like go register as one. And I didn't have the internet. So my gift for my parents, they would drive me to the public library and I would just spend hours there on the weekend learning how to do this, getting all the documents I needed, creating a board of directors, filing the paperwork and the mission statements. But like it's stuff now where I found out I was just like in the best business school possible.
Yeah.
So I did all of that, dropped out of high school.
Right, just a minute. What happened then to this nonprofit?
Well, you can also tell us the name of it. You haven't mentioned that yet.
Well, it was 1989, so I called it Earth 2000 because I thought twice my age is the year 2000. That's around the corner. We'll save the planet by then. And it was this incredible movement. But at the same time, it's like when I, grew up at 18, it's like it was a movement where it's like it kind of died with me. It's not a legacy that could kind of live on because it was truly a grassroots movement, which is fine. But then I was like, what do I do with my life? And so I ended up I figured out how to get a book deal with Random House.
Okay. Tell us how that went.
Because I went to a bookstore at the mall. And I was just going through the bookstore and I saw this book, it's a guide to literary agents, book publishers, whatever, how to get published. And it was this big phone book. And it had like a list of every literary agent and all the publishing houses and all the people you need to contact. Remember, pre-internet. And so I wrote a letter to a bunch of agents and I sent them just a bunch of clips, newspaper clips, of the activism we did. And I said, I think I would love to write a book. And one of them reached out to me and said, it's like, maybe you have something here. And he helped me write a book proposal and Random House bought it for $32,000.
That's incredible.
To do my semi-autobiography.
And you're 18 at this point.
18. Book is published when I'm 19.
Oh my God.
And $32,000 to an 18-year-old is a hell of a lot of money.
Oh, sure.
So I told my parents I'm moving to Washington, D.C. I rented an apartment. I worked for a nonprofit on forestry. So I was still lobbying and being an activist, and I was writing the book, and the book was published, and no one bought it.
Oh, no. What was it called? Generation
React.
Oh, I like that.
And it was about this generation that reacts to things. And I told my book publisher, I was like, well, what do I have to do to sell the book? And these are all obvious things, by the way. And they said, the Oprah show is like, that's the holy grail. I was like, okay, let's go on the Oprah show. Like, literally, this is how naive I am. I'm like, let's go.
But that's sometimes the best. It's exactly how things can happen.
And they're like, kind of like, well, you can't really do that. And it's like, okay. So I called like a PR firm. And I was like, how do I get on the Oprah show? And they go, for $20,000 a month, we'll keep campaigning and pitching and we'll work, but we can't promise. I was like, I don't have $20,000. I don't have $1,000. I can't do this. So I was like, well, there's no money lost in writing a letter to Oprah.
No, of course.
Because that was the way to do it back then. And so I took a postcard from a local restaurant that had Absolute vodka on the front because they were free. Remember all those free postcards?
Oh, yeah.
And in my mind, I thought Oprah still opened her own mail.
Sure,
so
why
I
not?
was like, well, she doesn't have to open an envelope. She just has to flip a postcard.
Oh, I like your thinking, though.
And I wrote like, Dear Oprah, I have this new book on how to be an activist. I was a child activist. You can challenge me to do anything and I'll do it. And then I put my phone number and I actually got a call from a producer who was like, well, what do you mean? Like, we got your postcard. We don't know what you're talking about. And I go, this is what I did. I have a book about this. I sent them the book. And he's like, we actually have this thing we're working on. And it was called, and she basically said, Oprah wants to build a Habitat for Humanity home in every city that her show airs this season. Wow. And we've had like people from like Coca-Cola come on the show with a big check, and go, and Coca-Cola is sponsoring, Atlanta. Woo! And the audience just be like,
yay.
Because it's like, I'm not Coca-Cola, And they said, we want a normal person, just a regular person to raise enough money to sponsor a house and tell us how they did it.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, what city? And they go, how about Baltimore? It was the cheapest one. So I was like, I'll do it. So I had 30 days to raise $30,000.
Wow.
And I couldn't mention the Oprah show. I couldn't say Oprah. I couldn't call anyone to do it. And I had to come up with things that anyone could do. And I came up with 10 crazy schemes that I knew could work. So I had to do my own fundraising. And like one of them, for example, I won't go through all 10. But one of them, for example, was I was at the Georgetown Mall in Washington, D.C. Because remember, I didn't have a car. So I had to walk around to figure this out or take the subway. And I noticed in the water fountains at the mall, there's all this money in the fountains. Do you ever wonder what happens to it?
They do. What
it's supposed to go to charity. And so I went to and this is where you just ask questions. And I went to the mall management office to go, what happens to all the fountain coins you have here? And they go, and this guy goes, oh, it goes to charity. And I go, well, what charity gets it? He goes, oh, are you with a charity? I go, I'm working for Habitat for Humanity. He goes, oh, come with me. And he opens this closet door. And it's the worst smell I've ever smelled in my entire life. But it was just buckets of wet, dirty coins. Because they have to clean the fountain.
Oh, my God.
And he's like, nobody will take it.
What do you mean nobody will take it?
Because you have to clean them, dry them, wrap them, all this stuff. And I was like, well, how much is in here? It was like thousands of dollars. And I go, I'll take them. You couldn't even lift the bucket. Like I said, I didn't have a car. So I couldn't even take them with me. I was like, but I'll take them. Let me figure this out. So then I figured out like, okay, who's in charge of money? The U.S. Mint. So I called the U.S. Mint. Again, no internet, guys. So I call the U.S. Mint and I say, I made up the story. It's like, I am a coin collector and I just have buckets and buckets of coins that I left outside and it rained and they got destroyed. It's like, I don't know like what I can do with this. And the woman goes, just hold, please. And I'm holding for like a minute and then like the phone, I'm on like this hold music. And then like I get this like person picks up the phone as if their phone has never rung before. Or like I just interrupted a nap. And it was kind of like, hello. And I go, and he goes, mutilated coin division.
Nobody ever knew to call them.
And I said, I explained my story to the mutilated coin division of the U.S. Mint. It does exist. And he goes, oh, it's no problem. He's like, do you have a bank account? I go, I can set one up. The bank will send a truck to pick up all the coins and then they'll sort it out and then we're going to just credit your account.
No.
So I didn't even have to touch them.
What? That is brilliant.
And how much?
I think it was like $3,000. Like $3,300, like more than 10% of my goal. So that's the stuff that I wanted on the show and said, you can do this, guys.
Right.
And so Oprah loved it. The book did really well. I got to write another book and I kept writing books. And then it wasn't until my next book, which was still about like activism. And I was like, I don't want to be like this activist for life. Like I want to make a difference, but I don't want to profit off of activism. Like it kind of felt weird. So, this reporter from the Washington Post came over to my apartment and I upgraded my apartment now from $350 a month to about $700 a month. Ooh. And I remember I wanted to decorate it. And so, I had to be very resourceful. And so like there was a church that threw out furniture and I repainted it and did things. I created all these things in the house and people who came over to my apartment were like, you have such a nice place. I go, it cost me nothing to do this. Right. I was being eco-friendly and resourceful. And she came over to do a brief interview. It was supposed to be a small story for the Washington Post. And she asked me all these questions about the furniture and what I made for lunch, and Whole Foods didn't exist. None of this existed. I said, oh, this is just the way I like to live. And then she had a follow-up day where she's like, can I just like go shopping with you? And she kept like doing this interview. And I was like, this story is never going to run. It was like weeks and weeks and weeks. And then one morning, I get this phone call and it goes, have you seen the Washington Post today? I go, no. And so I go to like CVS, I buy the Washington Post and I look at it and I go to the style section, the Sunday Washington Post. And I am literally the entire cover.
Oh my God.
And then you turn the page and it's a whole full second page where she wrote a feature story saying, this is the next Martha Stewart.
Wow.
Not what I expected.
That's amazing.
Not what was pitched. She never talked about the book, to the horror of Simon & Schuster. And I was horrified because I was like, I didn't go to culinary school. I didn't go to design school. I just like to do this.
Right.
I thought she was just curious. And that's when it all started to snowball from there, where it's like maybe showing people how to live your life this way, where it's beautiful and delicious, could actually change people to be greener and healthier, more sustainable. And that story then got picked up by the LA Times. And then all of these celebrities saw it. Oh. And so I started getting these calls from their assistants saying, so-and-so would like to work with you. And now I'm like 22, 23. And I remember like the very first A-lister that I worked with, thank God for NDAs. So
can't tell. Okay.
But we're talking huge Oscar winners, recent Oscar winners.
You wanted me to guess is what you're trying to.
So, and we never became like friends. Don't like think we're like friends. And I remember I would land at LAX. Like, I'm in Los Angeles. It's so exciting. And then I go to rent a car and they're like, you have to be 25. And I'd be like, you have to pick me up.
Oh, no.
I can't rent a car.
So the A-lister or the assistant picked you up?
So, but it all worked out. And so like I started working with all these different celebrities and I would do these small things. They weren't huge projects. I wasn't renovating houses or anything. I was like suggesting they maybe want to try wearing like Canadian sourced diamonds, you know, that are more sustainable and traceable, or maybe taking a Prius somewhere to an award show. And then these little things would get so much press.
Yep.
And I was like, this stupid little suggestion, insignificant suggestion, you know, got millions of people to talk about hybrid cars.
Yeah. It's incredible.
And I was like, it's like, as much as I was not into celebrities, I was like, it's such a great platform to use to actually talk about more than like, what are you wearing?
Yep.
You know, what's your favorite lipstick? How about, you know, tell me about your, you know, recycled garment, or tell me about, you know, like the organic food you're eating, or tell me about like the hydrogen fueled car that you took instead of a gas guzzling limo. So that like sort of kept evolving into lifestyle. And as I was working with celebrities, like the magazine business came in because they're like, we want to work with, you know, so-and-so. And I accidentally became a celebrity booker because, which is a weird business because I would book people to go to events and I'd book people to be on covers and I would book all these A-listers and work with their publicists and their team, because there's almost like this fear a lot of people have about how to approach them. And I was sort of like, I just didn't care. You know? And so I was like, why can't you just ask? You know, I would be at an event and there'd be someone really famous at this event, and someone come to me and is like, oh my gosh, could you introduce me to so? And I go, would you ever come up to me and say, would you introduce me to the waiter? No, go just talk to them. They're right there. It's no different. But I realized it was a skill set. So I started doing that, and then that's how I got into publishing, because then Maria Rodale gave me my first job at Rodale Publishing for Organic Style. Started booking covers. Then I ended up at Elle Magazine, and I created the Green Issue. I was the editor of that. And that was fun because I was able to really help them marry their luxury and beauty and their DNA with sustainability at the same time too. And then it kind of just like never ended.
Right. I mean, I know you had a column in a couple different publications for a while.
Yeah.
Before you had your own magazine.
So. Oh yeah, like A Country Home and Better Homes and Gardens. And so I had this like all this learning I was getting on like design, fashion, beauty, celebrity, and also working at like a big mainstream title taught me like how to think about like mainstream sensibilities. You know, how do you also just tap into like what she might be thinking in Iowa, not just New York City.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I
mean, even, you know, for me, it was even like I got an opportunity to be on Home Shopping Network of all places, HSN. Steve, you watch HSN, right?
It's all the time. You can't pull them away.
Really? You just take me as a huge home shopping person.
Christmas ornaments are his favorite.
But like there was a Japanese, like, you know, skincare line that was clean and, you know, had no preservatives, and they were struggling on selling it. And I knew right away, I was like, so you need an Asian person. I was like, that's fine. It's positive. It's a positive promotion. I'm going to embrace it. And because I knew nothing about beauty, I only like asked some questions about the ingredients and the efficacy. And like, I didn't really care about like what I look like. So like most people selling beauty would come on and just be like in these, usually a woman and that's just has perfect hair and makeup and everything. And I would go out there like in a t-shirt with no makeup on. And then I wouldn't be afraid to like, just like put on a product on my face and show you how it works. And so I was selling like pore strips.
Oh my God.
At one point. And at Porsche, you put it on your nose like a Band-Aid. And I would just tell the camera, I'm like, all right, it like wasn't selling. And I was like, okay, let me just show you how this works, guys, because I really do love this. And I go, I have whiteheads on my nose. Let me put it on. Let's just all wait together for a minute, let it dry. And let me tell you about this activated charcoal and the story behind it. And then I would say, I tell the camera, okay, zoom in, get in tighter, 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 tighter. Okay, if you're eating, stop eating. Let's go.
Take it off.
And I would just show white strips and they would sell really well. But my goal was not to sell product. Like I cared and the brand cared, but like it wasn't like what got me excited. What I learned from doing hundreds of hours of unscripted live television to talk about products is that it gave me the ability to work without a prompter or a script. I learned how to write a script in my head in real time, which allowed me then to do the television show with this producers, the show that I created without a script or a prompter.
Right.
And so if you ever went behind the scenes of my show on NBC, it's like I think the producers were shocked because they were used to dealing with talent that would get a massive script or they'd have a prompter and the talent would need to know every word that had to be said at every single time. And they'd want to do like a rehearsal or like it would just be a disaster or whatever. And I just would look at a recipe, for 5 seconds, I go, okay, got it. And I would have a card, like a Post-it, and I would write usually like 4 words on it that I knew like were very critically important, like 4, because I knew it had to be like 4 cups of something. And I kept thinking, in my mind, I was like, I usually use 3, but I got to say 4. Or like 350 for the oven temperature, 35 for the minutes. And then maybe that would be it. But the rest, I would have the facts about the nutritional levels, the good to know facts, why we're making it, why you should make it, why it's important to you. And it was the conversations always directed back to the viewer. It's like, why is this important to you? Because I was taught to talk that way from HSN. Why is this product important to you? Why is it was never about me. And that's where I think the connection was.
And did that show come out of it? Like, did those producers see you or did you go pitch the show after the magazine had been out for a few years? Because you did that like 17, 18, 19.
I made it sound like a show just magically appeared.
I know. We like to get behind the scenes and understand how things happen. So if the magazine started in
2014. We'll talk about the magazine first.
Let's talk about the magazine. Yeah.
It's not easy to get your own magazine, I guess.
No, tell us how that happened. Because you had all this experience. You had different columns. You had worked with celebrities.
Yeah. And I was like, one day I've never written a business plan for anything, and so when I look back now, I'm like, I don't know if that's foolish or intuition.
People trusted you.
So I think, or my intuition, just like it feels right. So I woke up on a Sunday and I remember going, there should be a magazine. I'm going to do a magazine. I don't know why. I was like, there's just nothing in this space.
Right.
Whole Living had folded. Natural Health was struggling. And I was like, this is like kind of the time to do it. And American Media, which publishes the National Enquirer, another Steve favorite, right?
At least I know what that is.
Yeah. and they published Natural Health, and I knew the publisher, and I said, what do you think about doing like a mini magazine inserted in Natural Health called Naturally? That's where it started. And so I went in and they loved the idea and they're like, let's work on it. So we created a prototype, and then like AMI was like, we don't want to do it. Because Natural Health was struggling and I could tell they were about to fold it. And like, why would we do this project? But my parting gift was the prototype.
Oh.
And it's so funny to hear this because part of my, is it a thesis? Like when you're, what's that thing you have to write in college? A thesis, your final like thing. Yeah. My thesis would have been on Martha Stewart.
Okay.
The history of Martha Stewart, because she went to Condé Nast with a magazine idea. They spent all this time and money developing a prototype. And then Cy Newhouse said, I just can't wrap my head around naming a magazine after a person.
Oh
Because like, what's next? Anna Wintour's Vogue is what he said.
So he didn't, but that was his own.
But he says, but your parting gift is the prototype. And the prototypes cost money.
Right. So Martha walked with that.
And she took it to Time Inc. and got her own magazine. So I took the prototype out to different publishers and with very specific list of requirements. Here's the magazine. Here's the business that I think it could be. Here are the advertisers. Here's the audience. And they go, we love it. And I go, and here are my terms. And they were all like, Oprah doesn't even get that. And I go, well, it's just important to me. I want to control the editorial. I want a final say on the cover. I want to own it. And I want to own all the content and all the trademarks. And you can publish it.
Right. It's a big ask, but I like it.
And they all said no. And the big ones, they all wanted to do it, but they all said no. They kept countering. And I was like, no, I'm not looking at it as a business. I just need to have that control because I don't want someone to come in with a focus group and tell me to do something on okra. Just because Debbie and the focus group loves okra. So even though I've been working in this field for so many years, suddenly my opinion doesn't count.
Right. Exactly.
So I found a smaller publishing company and they said, the only way we're going to give you the terms that you need is if like you put in the money to also do it. And I go, well, then why do I need you?
Right.
So I said, well, what's the actual cost then? And they go, well, the biggest cost is paper. So I was like, okay, so if I can get the paper for free, will you do it? And they crunched the numbers like, yeah, we only have to sell like 1% to make money. Like, and it's a great test. I go, who's going to give you free paper? It's expensive. And I was like, I'll find it. And again, I said, I did my like thesis on Martha Stewart and I knew Martha Stewart had this whole American Made program they were doing, which is recent. I think they're still doing it. And there's a company called Mohawk Papers.
Yeah.
They do the papers for Tiffany, Harry Potter. Yeah. It's very expensive. And I'd seen Mohawk as a sponsor, for American Made. And so I reached out to them and I was like, do you want to give me paper? And they're like, no, we've thought about it with Martha Stewart, but, we don't know who you are. We wanted to print Martha Stewart Living on it, but like it didn't work out for whatever reason, and I'm making the money symbol right now with my hands.
Right.
And so I actually said, well, I'm going to be, in your neck of the woods tomorrow. It's like, do you mind meeting with me? I'll show you the prototype and we can talk about it. I wasn't going to be in the neck of the woods. Nowhere near, right? But I made that drive. And it's because I just knew a face-to-face meeting. I just wanted them to see that this was not a business transaction. And I would proudly put it on the cover, print it on Mohawk paper. I looked at all their innovation and they had an app they created called Mohawk Live, which you downloaded. And if you went through the magazine, it was a QR code for photos. So the photo was a QR code. So you would hold the app over, let's say, a photo in our magazine of, let's say, a zebra, and then it would actually come alive on your phone and show zebras running.
Oh, very cool.
So I said, we will shoot all of our photos in the magazine. I'll also shoot video, and then we'll make sure the whole magazine comes alive. And they're like, okay, we'll give you the paper.
Wow.
And when they did the test, they published it on Mohawk paper, and the publisher's enthusiastic. They came back and go, we usually a magazine has like a 15 to 20% sell through a newsstand. We had 83%. With the launch issue.
What was going on? Was it
I don't think it was the paper. I mean, the paper was nice, but again, I was just left to my own devices.
What was the cover?
The cover was a bunch of juices, healthy juices. People were juicing. We put that on the cover. I have it here. The very first one?
Yeah, we have the very first one here.
Which is now $100 on eBay.
Is it? Wow. Oh, I'm going to go sell mine later.
So, that equals 2 bamboo juices.
and how much is an autographed one?
Oh, well done, Steve. We'll put it on Home Shopping Network.
I think it's considered damaged.
It's not pristine anymore. I keep mine in a plastic cover.
You do not.
I do not.
So that gave me the magazine because the publisher didn't have to take any risk, and I was able to get the terms that I wanted.
Okay. And did you just do the first one with the Mohawk, or have they been?
2. We did it for 2.
Okay.
And then like down the line, our 10th issue, I got a call from the plant. They go, what do you want to do with the rest of the paper? And I was like, we're doing a special anniversary issue.
Oh, you're kidding.
This is what we're doing. So my point is that people always ask me how this all happens. And I was like, there's no formula for anything.
Yeah.
Anything. There's no easy way of doing it. You just have to ask the right questions. I'm constantly asking questions. But once you actually are presented with the facts, stop asking questions. Go use that information and do it, because a lot of people will be told the information, but they're not listening.
Well, and you never see a closed door.
Yeah.
It's just, how do I open it again? Keep it open.
How do you just say thank you for that information? I will be in touch. So like the mall management office, thank you for this information that you have a room full of wet coins. I will be in touch. I am not going to, because if you knew how to get rid of the coins, you would have done it. I'm not going to bother you to help me figure this out, because you obviously don't know. Thank you for this information that paper is the most expensive part of a magazine. I will go figure this out.
Right.
There's always a solution, and then sometimes the answer, or there's always a solution, or there's always an answer. And sometimes that answer is, it can't be done.
So what are you thinking about now?
Like right now, like lunch.
Yeah.
I think it's almost 4 o'clock. I don't know if lunch is in your...
No, I mean, it's... A pandemic is an interesting experience for all of us. And it's an interesting life experience, but I actually thrive when things are challenging. I know it sounds masochistic, but I thrive. Just for me personally, I love a challenge. And so when I launched the magazine, everybody was like, why are you doing a print magazine? Like, everyone's doing a digital program. Do digital. It's all eyeballs. Digital's the future. And I was like, because like anyone can buy a $20 piece of software, a program, and do a flip magazine, and suddenly you have a digital site, and then you're under all this pressure to keep generating content. And I was like, I just want to have a life too. And I figure with a magazine, it's like, it's real estate. Like it's Serenbe. When you're out of land, you're out of land. So my real estate is 132 pages, and I'm going to really be very careful what I put in 132 pages in every issue. And I'm going to grow the magazine. And also, there's not a lot of people who have, and this is when I found out I had to add my name to the magazine. I go, and then you can count on like 2 hands who's had a magazine named after them. Rachel Ray, Oprah Winfrey, Rosie O'Donnell actually had one, Martha Stewart, Dr. Oz, and who are we forgetting?
Oh, we're forgetting somebody.
Don't ask me.
There's got to be.
We'll insert it maybe in editing.
Even like Chip and Joanna.
Yeah, they call it Magnolia, though. It's not even named after them, right?
But again, it's a handful of people. And I was like, I want to be part of this like kind of rarefied group, but I also just like, it's special. Like, even when we're doing the TV show on NBC, it's like, everyone's like, why aren't you doing this like you could do it on YouTube, or you could do it as a digital series. And I go, no, or you could do it on this like fringe channel called, like
Netflix
no, not Netflix, but like, it would be things like, there's this new channel that TLC is launching called FYI, and it used to be this, and you can find it here. And I go, I am not saying that to everyone that I meet. What I want to say is like, oh, you can watch it on NBC.
Yeah.
And there's not one person who goes, what's NBC?
Right.
Like, I just want to be like, I wanted to have a magazine that you could find at Hudson News, at Whole Foods. You could go to Barnes & Noble and buy our books. You could go to Home Goods and buy our products. Yeah. It's like, I just wanted to be accessible to Linda in Iowa.
Yeah.
It was always, again, back to the mainstream.
I know,
thinking.
as long as she's not telling you to put okra in your magazine.
And I do like okra.
I know.
So have you had a cocktail party of all the people that have had magazines named after them?
That would be amazing. And would we invite Dr. Oz? Because his magazine folded.
His magazine's gone.
That's the question. That would be amazing here at Serenbe, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
I think it'd be amazing.
Oprah, Martha, Rachel, and you. Is that the 4 that are still? And the one we're forgetting? Oh, there was Gwyneth, but that was Goop.
Yeah, that folded.
Oops.
I don't know. I mean, it's been a journey for sure. And then the TV show came after that. So,
and you did that for 3 seasons, I want to say.
We did 3 seasons.
And you shot one here.
We did a whole season at Serenbe, which was my favorite season. Because it felt like I was at home. So
you were.
It felt like home, and it gave me a good separation of work life. I think so. I was thinking like people who do work and live here, you have that clear definition of separation, which is so nice. When I was filming the first season, it was in the summer in Palm Springs, California. So like you're in this beautiful modern home that's air conditioned, you know, frigidly cold. And then you go outside, it's 110 degrees. And then so you have to go back to your like rental and never go outside. So I didn't enjoy that.
That was the first year.
That was the first year. And I lost so much weight doing that show because I was just thirsty all the time. Second season we did in Los Angeles. And I'm not an LA person, so I never left the Valley because I didn't want to drive an hour and a half to go somewhere. So I didn't feel like I was at home. And then even on the weekends, it was like it would take forever to find a place to go hiking or do something natural. And so I was kind of miserable. But that was the season that got us the Emmy.
See, exactly. They could feel it.
And then the third season, I approached you and I was like, can we bring the show here? And I think it was a huge hit.
It was a huge hit. And then and that was right after we had done the house with you.
Yeah.
The Naturally house.
Yeah. It's been good collaborations.
And so we're going to do another one.
A different one.
A different one.
Different style that, you know, is it 8 bedrooms?
It is 6 bedrooms and a study that could convert as a bedroom.
Okay.
And tell us a little bit about it, Steve. We're going to go walk the framed building in a minute here, but tell us, Steve, a little bit about it. What is it? It's called Portal.
Portal. So it's everything you believe in, Danny. It's a portal into a healthier lifestyle. And a lot of people have struggled with that.
Did you just get that?
Yeah.
Maybe I should explain that to you in the beginning.
All this time I didn't know.
And so many people, even if and it's going to be a health retreat, but not where you go and choose what you want to do. You check in on a Saturday and you get to check out on the following Friday. And we have a complete program of exercise and diet and conversation. And because it's at Serenbe, which is right in the middle of a community, and so we intentionally have put it right in the heart of Motto. Yeah. Because usually when people go on retreat, and then they have trouble integrating back into their busy life. And so this is try to help them to find how they can balance both. Being healthy, having an exercise program, eating well, and still be in their busy lifestyle.
I am such a huge fan of this because I've done those week-long sort of, I call them Control Alt Delete Your Life, like a reboot. And I did one in Malibu, but I felt like I was at like a treatment center. Like I felt like, because it's way up in the Malibu hills and it's a beautiful place, but like you have no cell reception, which is fine, but like you have no connection to the outside world until there's this one moment where we have lunch on the beach and it's like a salad with like, and that's like, whatever. And so you're on the beach and you just see other people and you see a restaurant and you're just like, oh my gosh, who are all these people? So I didn't like that part of it because I felt like when I was done, I was afraid to go on the plane.
Right.
You know, I was afraid, and they had no caffeine, no alcohol, no meat, no dairy. And I was just like, you know, I had like a Starbucks at the airport and I just felt like I just failed.
And that's what most of these programs are said about. Or it's luxury and you can, you know, have a menu and you have a massage one time and maybe I do a little exercise and you come out not really. So it's defining that balance between it all. And your first days will be very, very regimented, complete schedule. But by the end of the week, we're going to the restaurants and ordering. So that it's sort of showing you can have both. It's just learning how to balance it.
Yeah, and you'll probably end up a little lighter and clearer, and you know, what are the whites of your eyes are always brighter, is what they say.
And we're working now. We'll have a program where you can sign up, and if you want to have a group and check in, or have a counselor, and how hard it is to, you know. So we're going to have some programs where you can touch back in, and if you've been on a full 6-day program, then we're going to have weekend boosters, and you can come back and tuck right back into it.
Why don't you call it Serenbeing?
Yeah.
No?
And now we're stuck with Portal.
Okay.
There's a whole architectural detail
I
to
like
it.
Portal, though.
Yeah.
But look, it's that whole idea where you go through. And the idea is, if you can learn how to move between the various sides of the portal, you can simply be.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole journey that we should be on.
Is this like a no booze thing also?
No, it's not.
Okay, because you're right by Halsa.
Yes, I know. That serves cocktails.
It's his whole idea that we can, have incredible decadent foods that are good for you, rather than the idea that to be good you have to starve yourself and not. So that's what a lot of these programs were based on.
Yeah, the one I did was a raw food diet, vegan raw food. And then I remember one day we had like a 2-hour open window after hiking for 5 hours. My body was just so sore and hungry. And they're like, why don't you go to the garden? And I walk into the garden. This is a place in Malibu. And I notice there's a fig tree and like all the figs are ripe. And I just started eating that.
Exactly.
I just like started devouring the tree. And I
vegan.
couldn't stop. And I was just like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, it's too much. It's not realistic. It's not sustainable. And so, I think there's a place for that kind of retreat, but this idea is going to be much more livable.
And we think it's a space that we're not aware of anyone that's really doing it in this way.
Especially on the East Coast.
No.
Especially.
Well, on the West Coast are very, very programmed. It's just a different color, a different program, a different arrival. But
so it was just cloistered and
so this is about being integrated into a community, which I can't think of any place that does that.
Well, I'm excited to be part of it.
Well, we're delighted.
We're so excited.
I got some fun things to add, some flair and
good.
Some gardening ideas.
Well, before we go, I want to ask you one last question. If there's anything that we don't know that you're working on that you want to share, or any dreams, maybe a new TV show, or you've been here at Serenbe for a week shooting some covers in a couple houses. Yeah. But is there anything big dreams you want to tell us about, or?
No, I'm in survival mode right now because of this whole Corona pandemic thing. The one thing I've just been so adamant about is that, we've kept the team intact. I haven't had to lay anyone off, but also I haven't had to really reduce. We have a big talent pool of photographers and writers and everyone, and they've all been faced with just cutbacks at all the major publishing houses and their fees. And I just made it a point to not cut back on anything. And what it's actually done is, one, it's just, I feel strongly about it because I was freelance for so long, but two, I actually get better work out of people. So I was like, the quality of work I'm getting is so much stronger that I'm like, okay, that's win-win.
They can focus on the work and not worry about the fee.
Well, Danny, do you think these times too have focused more on what you and I believe in? People are really looking at both health and environment and all these issues?
I think so. Statistically, just to look at data first and foremost, our March and April was our strongest month of sales. So in an industry that's seeing a downturn, we saw a major uptick in sales, and we were just covering health and wellness and recipes and some tips. And also we don't cover really the pandemic at all. So I think escapism was important for people. We're not in denial. It's just not everybody has to talk about it. And it's I was like, it's no different than the Kardashians. I don't have to talk about it.
I like how they're together.
Which one's worse? But also it's I think during this time, it helps you just prioritize what's really important, and so it's nice to actually clear out some of the noise. And I think it's given people permission to also say no. I don't mean no to work and being irresponsible. I'm just no, I have to think about myself, my mental health, my family. I have to think about self-care. And that's something I think we were all in this crazy cycle of just running and speeding towards what. And I don't want to be in denial that people are struggling and that people need work and people are worrying about how they're going to feed themselves. But at the same time, it's we all just had a moment to go, okay, let's just think what's happening. So it's a little bit of a reset. I hope it's not too long of a reset.
Well, it's changing muscle memory. I think there's some things that will be permanently changed. And, it's advancing a lot of the trends. I mean, some of the things we see, big shopping malls and big department stores were already on a trend down.
Yeah.
Working at home was already on a trend up. It's just accelerated all these things.
Yeah. I think it's always good to see glimmers of positivity,
Yeah. Well, Danny, thank you so much. It's been so lovely to have you.
It was a good rehearsal.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Danny.
That was the real thing.
What?
But thank you. We're sad to see
everyone.
you go today, and we hope you come back soon.
I know. I'm going to go pet the goats now at Goat Yoga.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
There are two rubrics in building a city. You can follow the sprawl mentality, or you can preserve land while boosting economic development. Serenbe builds and designs to be both beautiful and environmentally sustainable. If you're a city planner, developer, landowner, or policymaker, there are common sense solutions you can take to build a biophilic-centered community. Attend the Nigran Placemaking Conference this fall to learn more. Details at nigranplacemaking.com. That's NYGRENPLACEMAKING.com.
Thank you for listening to Serenbe Stories. New episodes are available on Mondays. Please rate and review the podcast and make sure to email your questions for Steve Nygren to stories@serenbe.com. You may even get to hear them on the podcast. More details about episodes and guests are available on our website, serenbestories.com.